This is Women's Tech Radio,
a show on the Jupiter Broadcasting Network interviewing interesting women in technology, exploring their roles and how they're successful in technology careers. I'm Paige.
and I'm Angela.
So, Angela, today we had an awesome opportunity to interview Shannon Morse. She's a new media podcasting host. She's known for the show Hack 5 and also Tech Thing is her new show. And we got to talk to her about how she got into everything, gaming, and all sorts of fun topics.
Yes, we sure did. And before we get into the interview, I'd like to mention DigitalOcean. If you go to DigitalOcean.com and use the promo code HeyWTR, you can save on simple cloud hosting dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way to spin up a cloud server. You can create a cloud server in 55 seconds, and pricing plans start at only $5 a month. That's 512 megabytes of RAM, 20 gigabytes SSD, 1 CPU, and 1 terabyte transfer. DigitalOcean has data center locations in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, and London. And the interface is incredibly simple, intuitive. The control panel is awesome. It'll help you design exactly what you need, which empowers users to replicate on large scales with the company's straightforward API. Check out DigitalOcean.com by using promo code HeyWTR.
And we got started with our interview today by asking Shannon what she's up to in tech these days.
So I am a producer and host of several different tech shows on the internets, on YouTube and on RSS feeds all over the place. Specifically, my main shows right now are Hack 5, HAK5 over at hack5.org, and Tech Thing, which is tekthing.com. And both of those involve, well, Hack is obviously about hacking and internet security. And then the Tech Thing show, that one is about technology in general for consumers.
So you're like a new media entertainer? Would you fit into that category?
Yeah, I guess you would say that. You know, I was just filling out my tax docs and I was like, what do I put my profession as? I guess I'll just pick journalism.
Yep, I know how that goes.
I get to fall under the consultant category for almost everything. So how did you get into that? Like, new media is such like a, if we can use that term, it's such a new thing. It's kind of all over the place. Like, what started that for you?
Well, I've always been interested in technology and stuff like that. And then I didn't discover podcasting or internet media until I was in college. So it was probably like 2003 or 2004. And I was really, really into video games at the time, which I still am, even though I don't have enough time to do it these days. And my friend and I discovered this podcast called Pure Ownage up in Canada.
Oh my God, I love Pure Ownage.
Yes, me too. I'm so excited that they're working on their movie right now. I backed it on Kickstarter when they did that, or Indiegogo. So my best friend and I, we drove like 20 hours from Missouri all the way up to Canada for the weekend just to see this live premiere. And I fell in love with the community, and I fell in love with like how there was no middleman between the hosts of the show and the characters and their fans. So you could just walk up to them and like chill at a bar after their live premiere show. So for me, it felt like it was the perfect middle ground of loving technology and being able to enjoy it with your fans as well.
Yeah, that's really, I would have never really thought of that end of it, that there's no middleman between the fan and the person. Because I always think about it from the technology standpoint to say especially then, there was no middleman between me and the content. Like, they came right from the producers of the content to me as a consumer.
Yeah.
And back then, they had to just host it on their site and you had to download it. Like, there's no YouTube or anything.
Yeah, like a lot of us who are working in podcasting, like, we don't have agents or anything like that. So the only thing that's holding us back from reaching out to people is actually getting out of our house and getting out from in front of the cameras and going outside into the sun and enjoying time with real people. So yeah, I just I fell in love with it. And then after that, I just started talking to the right people, and I ended up meeting the guys from Hack 5, and they asked me if I wanted to move out to Virginia, as weird as that is. But I moved into the Hack House, as it was called back in the day. And they invited me on the show after I did a little bit of camera work behind the scenes. So at that time, I just had a full-time job, and I just kind of did it as a hobby. But eventually it turned into a big full-time gig. So I'm really happy that it did.
So I obviously am into podcasting, and we go to conventions in different places, mainly local, like Washington, Oregon, California.
But we did do an Ohio Fest for technology related stuff. And I get a lot of people coming up to me saying, Angela. And I'm like, hi, I don't know you. Like, but they know everything about me, you know? Has that happened to you?
Yes, very much so. Most likely it's happened most often at a convention called DEF CON, which is in Las Vegas. That's the biggest hacker convention in the US and possibly the world. I'll have to check my facts on that. But yeah, I'll go there, and I'm walking down to the room where we set up our booth, and we do all of our interviews and everything, and people will stop me and they'll be like, oh my God, congratulations on getting married. And I'm just like, I forgot I posted that publicly. Thank you.
Right.
It's a little awkward, but I'm like, dude, it's so cool that people are like willing to come up and just be like, hey, congrats. And I'm like, cool, give me a hug.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had that experience when I first met Angela because I had been a follower of Jupiter Broadcasting for a long time, and she posts so prolifically about her kids and her awesome photography of her kids that I'm like, I feel like I just know you and we just met, and it's cool to get to know the person behind it, but definitely an interesting experience.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And like my experience with meeting Chris at the convention, like, because I was starstruck. And before I asked him, I was like, oh, I'm so nervous. Like, maybe he'll just give me some advice on podcasting and it'd be great.
I don't try to act too starstruck whenever I meet other podcasters that I listen to all the time, but sometimes you just can't help it.
Yeah, I've had people come up and they're like, I don't really know what to say. Like, but I'm really cool. It's really cool to actually like meet you. It's really neat.
Yeah, I have to make a confession that I was actually really nervous to ask Shannon to be on the show because I have been watching Hack 5 since before she came on Hack 5, and I kind of watched her journey, and that's been really awesome to see, especially because when it got started, it was such a dude show, and as a woman watching the show, I was always like, this is cool, and they had that like one chick who would kind of stop in and do some gaming stuff once in a while.
I'll be honest, it was very intimidating when I first started on the show. I was not involved with the hacker community very much at the time, and I was just kind of getting my feet wet into the whole process of learning all of the information that's out there about hacking and internet security. But in how long have I been doing this? 7 years? Oh my gosh, that's a long time. So in the 7 years that I've been doing this, I've learned so much, and I feel like a lot of this it's just because I've gotten so involved and I made sure to ask the right questions. And I come to it as no question is a stupid question. So I'm going to be the person that asks that question, even though other people might look at me and think I'm stupid. I don't care because other people have those questions, but they're afraid to ask them. So right. I felt like I've grown so much just by being a part of this show. And it's been really informative for me. And I'm glad that I have some female fans out there. It makes me very happy.
What was your focus in college? Was it a technical degree?
It wasn't, as weird as that is. I probably should have gone into theater at the time, but I didn't because I was obsessed with theater. But I went into hospitality and restaurant administration. So I guess what I took out of college mostly was the business perspective. It helped me be a better public speaker because we did a lot of presentations for our classes. And it also taught me a lot about how to run a business. So we've been able to open up a store for Hack 5 online. So we do a lot of e-commerce, and we've also learned a lot about marketing and things like that.
So you said you've always been interested in technology. Like what did that look like as a kid for you?
Oh yeah, my dad had a computer in my nursery. He did. We didn't have enough rooms in the house, apparently. This is the story he's told me. So when I was a baby, he just stuck his first computer, or one of his many computers, in my nursery, and he would let me sit on his lap and pound at the keyboard until I figured out something that happened on the keyboard. So yeah, I've just been around computers my whole life. My dad was a really big influence on that for me. Also for my like Star Trek geekiness, because he watched it every single day after work. So I would sit down and watch it with him. I love my geeky influences. But yeah, I learned how to build computers when I was probably an early teen. 11 or 12, I think, was when I first built my computer with my dad. And he got me into building websites when I was in middle school. So I learned a little bit about like HTML and how to build a really simple anime fan gallery type website on GeoCities. So I learned a little bit there. And I also got really involved with video gaming And I made a good group of friends at school who got me really obsessed with that kind of stuff. So it was just always a really good influence with me, like as far as the people that I was hanging out with. And my dad was always there, and he was always like, yeah, come with me to the computer store. We'll go to Best Buy and you can check out motherboards, back when they had motherboards.
Dude, you had the best dad ever.
He was awesome. Yeah, he's a great guy. He still gets really geeky with me. I'll be like, let's go to Fry's. And he's like, yeah, let's go.
My friends call that Mecca.
Oh, yes.
So like you did all this as a young person, and then like why did you end up choosing hospitality instead?
A lot of it was because I really liked working with people. And I felt like if I went into a tech thing, I wouldn't get to work with people as much, like one-on-one or face-to-face. But I went into a lot of jobs during like high school and during college where I managed restaurants, or I was a server. Like I think I did assistant management at a Domino's Pizza for like 5 years. So it was really fun for me. I loved being able to like make people happy and make perfect food for them and see the smile on their faces and get really good tips out of it. So for me, it was just all about like really enjoying my job and being able to be around people, because I'm a friendly person.
I had a very similar story where I was really involved in tech, doing a lot of IT support, and I kind of topped out desktop support and knew that the next step would kind of be to end up as like a server monkey in a server farm, like just in the basement, and kind of had to transition. In the first interview I did where I was trying to transition, they were like, well, why would you want to leave this field? It's lucrative, it's good, it's interesting. And I'm like, I don't want to just stare at server fans all day. Like I want to interact with other people, even if it's in a non-technical space.
That's why I love podcasting now, is because I can use my tech experience that my dad's taught me, and I can use what I can find online and through educational books that I can purchase and learn. And I can also use my theater obsession, and I kind of mix the two together, and I can still talk to people face to face with interviews and talking to fans and going to like conventions and stuff like that. So it's like the happy medium for all those different obsessions for me.
Mm-hmm.
What have been your biggest challenges with podcasting?
Being a woman.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. It's been very tough for me to get over my own conflictions in my brain, telling me like, whenever you're around men who are in a certain technical community, they may talk down to you because you're a female. Or if I'm at a convention, I have to deal with people sexualizing me because I'm a woman and because I just happen to have girly parts. So it's been very hard for me to get people to act mature whenever I'm talking on a show and I just happen to be wearing like a shirt that has a little bit of cleavage or something like that. So it's been hard, but I think I've gotten to the point where I'm respected because I respect people just as much. And I've learned a lot about what I'm good at. And I also don't lie to people. So, whenever I'm on the show talking about a certain segment, I'll tell them straight up, like, hey, I'm not an expert in blah, 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 but this is something that I studied and I know this is correct.
I've always been really impressed with your ability to kind of present a brand new topic and be humble about it without being apologetic.
Yeah.
I think that's really key, especially for women. Like our tendency is to be apologetic that we don't know things. And it's okay to not know everything, but it's also okay to know what you know. Yeah.
I totally agree with you on that. And I'm totally willing on the show too to ask for support as well. Like if there's a certain thing that I run into, like a problem, which I'll run into problems, everybody does with technical aspects. I'll ask the community. I'll say, hey, has anybody else run into this problem? Can you answer this for me? Email me and I'll shout you out in the next show. So that way it's rewarding for them and it's rewarding for me too, because I love to learn and I'm always willing to learn because, you can never learn everything that's available in the world.
Have you done any kind of boot camp or any kind of online specifically technical classes?
Yeah, like what's your favorite resource for learning all the new stuff that you're constantly teaching?
I'm a huge bookworm. So if I can find like an educational book that's written by an expert in the field, I'm going to buy the book. I know that I could just Google it and probably find a great Wikipedia article about whatever I'm learning, but I prefer to use like school textbooks.
I think you might be the first guest that said that.
I don't know why, but I learn so much better whenever I can sit down and read a book. And I think it's just because I've always been around books my whole life. So I'm a huge bookworm.
Yeah, I have to say, I kind of agree. Like when I really need to deep dive a topic, like I just recently had to start learning AngularJS for my job, and like trying to do it with the online tutorials, I was getting some of it. But when I finally was like, okay, I'm just going to get the O'Reilly book and sit down and plow through it. Like it all just comes together so much more richly.
Yeah. It's really tough too with online articles because a lot of them start at a more advanced topic when I choose to start my segments at a very beginner topic. So if I'm just learning things, I can't start from like halfway in, like the 201 series. I have to start with the 101 or else I don't understand a thing. So I'm very logical, I'm very step by step and tutorial based, and I like to teach people the same way that I like to teach myself.
Yeah, I have to say I've definitely recommended your hack tip segments for several women trying to kind of get their head around some basic stuff for Linux or
Thank you.
Stuff like that.
I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah, Paige is a huge advocate. She runs the Portland chapter of Women Who Code and does a lot of networking.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, I've even had I've had a few people email me and say, hey, I've been using your hack tips as a series in my school or in my classroom. So it's really, really inspiring whenever I have people email me and tell me that they're using this to teach a younger generation.
So what would you, I guess I'm always interested because especially with it being so accessible, like really all you need is a computer and an internet connection and some sort of microphone and you can get started podcasting. Like, what would you say to people who are interested in kind of like sharing their knowledge in this way?
Definitely do it about something that you're obsessed with. Like not just something that you're semi-interested in and you kind of want to teach people about it, but something that you really know, like something that you're willing to learn, really delve into and really become an expert on. Because if you're not, it really comes across in podcasting whenever somebody doesn't know everything. And be willing to learn more too. And then as far as technical experience with podcasting, get a good mic. Audio is key. People won't listen to a podcast if it doesn't have good audio. And don't worry about how many people are watching your show because the ones that matter, they will be there from the beginning to the end. It doesn't matter if you have 1 million views. Don't look at it as trying to make money. Just look at it as sharing something that you love.
The internet is an awesome place because we've all taken the time to share.
I agree.
So what do you think? So we talked about your biggest challenges in podcasting. What keeps you in podcasting? Like what lights your fire about it?
For me, it's really when I go to conventions or when I go to a meetup or something like that and I see like a little boy or a little girl come up to me and be a little bit shy about meeting me, but tell me that they've learned from me and they've been able to develop some kind of experience with whatever I've been teaching on the different shows. And for me, it feels so good to know that I'm changing somebody's view on technology. So it's not just like, when me and you grew up, it's not like it feels geeky for them. Like we're looked down upon.
Yeah,
but it feels
geek wasn't cool.
Yeah, it wasn't cool back in our day. But now it's more of a cool thing because you have these interesting people get into it that are so obsessed with it that we come across like, I don't know, Bill Nye's.
Yeah.
I remember watching Bill Nye in high school and thinking like, wow, he's so cool. Like he makes me so excited for science. I want to be that person. I wanted to be the person that gets these little kids excited about talking about internet security and hacking.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah, I've never seen anyone be able to light up a room about PGP the way that you can.
Yeah, I love seeing when, a little 9-year-old girl comes up to me and her eyes light up because she's like, oh my gosh, I learned so much from you. It just makes me feel so good inside. And that's really what keeps me going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, to reaching out, helping the community, and just building it back. And, I think hearing you talk at the beginning about how being involved in the community was what kind of jump-started you into the knowledge and the place that you have in podcasting. Like, this community, the hack community, the tech community is welcoming by and large, and just like you said, no question is a bad question.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've had a few people look at me and just be like, you're asking that question? And I'm like, yeah, because guess what? The 5 people behind me, they want to ask that question too, but they're too afraid to, raise their hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, exactly. I talk a lot when I teach a intro to JavaScript course, and one of the biggest things I teach is like ask questions and let me help you learn how.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're not going to learn if something goes over your head. You have to ask those questions.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask how to ask the question too, because sometimes it's just that you're missing that, you're asking these questions and you're just asking the wrong question. So just go ahead and ask, like, what should I know here? Like, what am I missing?
Absolutely. Oh man, I wish I could taken your course in in college.
And so then we talked briefly about your nickname. On Twitter, you're /snubs, or I guess @snubs, and your website is snubsy.com.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how you got that nickname?
So that was in high school. I was hanging out with my friend Danny, and I was really into video games at the time. So I was learning that I really needed to get a screen name. And I thought, well, Shannon's not that great of a screen name, so I need something cool. So one of my friends, he was like, well, what about Snubsy Boo? And I was like, that's so cute, Snubsy Boo. So over time, it just kind of shortened down to Snubs because it's easier to spell and it's faster to type.
That works.
Yeah.
Sometimes with our friends lay on us, it just sticks.
Yep.
It's a boring question, or it's a boring answer, but I get it all the time.
Yeah, I think the first time I had to come up with a screen name was for LiveJournal. Well, first of all, yeah, it was actually AOL. And I wanted Curly, but there were apparently 8,500 and 700. Anyway, like it was Curly 85647. But anyway, when I got to like choose one creatively in high school for LiveJournal, I just Googled, I put in a random word into Google and browsed, just picked a random word and then did it again with a different word and picked a second word, and it ended up being Scaling Dynasty.
Ooh, that's cool.
That's
I know.
pretty cool, actually.
It is cool. I haven't used it anywhere else, but yeah.
Yeah. My friends always get a little bit weirded out when they find out my online handle, because I'm kind of like a tomboy girl and, backwards hats and everything, and my handle is Feather.
Oh, that's adorable. I like it.
Yeah.
It works for me.
Well, people get weirded out whenever I walk into like a Fry's and I'm like, I want to build a computer. And then I get these looks from the reps and they're like, you sure you want to build a computer? Like, yes, I can do my manicures and pedicures and want to build a computer too.
Yeah.
Do you find that because you have a fairly feminine appearance, even for like women in technology, like that sets you even farther apart?
Oh, for sure. I did an experiment recently and it was just kind of a quiet experiment that I didn't tell anybody about, but you can see it on Tech Thing if you look close enough. So in one episode, I wore a very floral shirt. It was very, like, it had flowers all over it, and it was pink, and it was, very, very girly. And I was talking about some kind of technical segment. I don't remember what it was now, but I got a lot of harsh criticism on that episode. And I was like, well, I know that I was teaching the correct facts, so I'm going to try something new on the next episode. So on another episode of Tech Thing, I decided to do another different shirt where I wore a gaming t-shirt. So it was, it wasn't flattering, it wasn't girly at all. It was just a gaming t-shirt with a bunch of consoles on it. I got really, really good constructive feedback on that one. Nobody was negative. And I was like, that's strange. So I did it again. Same thing. Isn't that weird?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? So I was like, huh. So it totally has to do with like how you show yourself on a show. And a lot of it is kind of sexist. And I don't think it's meant to be, but it's just the way that we've grown up and the way that we perceive women as compared to men. So women generally are perceived as like lesser, or we don't have as much education as men or as much experience. Not that I'm a feminist necessarily. I might be sometimes, but I've noticed a big difference depending on what I wear on the show.
Right. Well, and if you just put it into sentences that somebody reads, it's like if the audience is thinking, what does she know? She's wearing flowers.
Exactly.
Like, that sounds weird.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh, she might know something. She has a gaming shirt.
Yep.
That's so bizarre.
It's totally bizarre, but it's true. And that's the way our society has been taught.
It's an unconscious bias, and that's the hardest part about it. It is by and large an unconscious bias.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get treated very differently than most of my female counterparts because I wear baseball caps, I wear t-shirts and jeans, and most guys just treat me like one of the guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of interesting because I feel sometimes like I get to be a double agent, to like infiltrate and be like advocate for women, and they're like, but you're one of the guys. What's going on?
That's hilarious. It's terrible, but it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes but at the same time, it's interesting because I'll get the unconscious bias the other way, where I show up to a women's event, and because I don't look very feminine, I can get the judgment in the other direction too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's very, very interesting. Although the geek community is more accepting of that.
Yes. Right.
Which is good. Speaking of dressing, interestingly, you had one last thing that I'm always fascinated by. Who's your favorite character to cosplay?
Oh, heck yeah. I would say Sailor Mars. She's my
Ooh,
from Sailor
good
Moon.
call.
If nobody's watched it, Sailor Moon is amazing. So good.
yeah. You went old school.
Yes, it's totally old school, but I made my first Sailor Mars costume when I was in college, and I loved it so much. I even dyed my hair black, and I grew it out so it would look like Sailor Mars. There are pictures. There are pictures on the internet of my Sailor Mars cosplay on my Twitter.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, who are you dressed as in your current Twitter picture?
Let's see. My current Twitter, I think, is just my... Oh, yeah, that's my Renaissance Festival costume.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Yep. I just decided to dress as a Ren Fair person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to put together my very first cosplay costume, and it is a big reach because I want to cosplay as Baymax from Big Hero 6.
Cool.
Oh my gosh.
So, but I've been a costumer for a long time. I do a lot of Renaissance Fair and all that jazz. So I like costuming, but this is an interesting. I want to do the blow up and figure out how to make it work.
That is really
you-
cool. I wish you tons of luck. It's hard work, but it's worth it.
Right?
I actually have a fan for material to blow it up.
Ooh.
Like,
All right, we're gonna have to talk.
yeah, that's great. It's for like a Hulk costume, but you could totally just use it
Oh,
for
that's
that.
neat. I should look into that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. So cosplaying. What about cosplaying do you enjoy, Shannon?
I like being able to dress up and pretend to be somebody else. It's the theater thing for me.
Yeah. I always like the idea of be all you can't be.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so much fun.
Yeah, it's very fun. I highly recommend that if you've never played dress up as an adult, you at least give it a go. It's at the very least, it's an interesting psychological experiment.
It is. It's kind of like Halloween every single day.
Yeah, with less candy.
Yes, with less candy. Well, unless you buy it from the grocery store next door to the hotel, like I do.
I feel like you might have done that.
Maybe.
Might be from experience.
Nice. Awesome. Well, so I just one last question. You've mentioned that you go to conventions. What's the next convention that you're headed to?
Let's see. The next one will be this summer. It'll be DEF CON again. This will be, I think, like my 6th DEF CON. Wow,
Oh,
that's
wow.
a lot. And after that, I'll be going to Dragon Con for my first time this year. So I'm planning to
very fun.
cosplay at that one.
Very cool. Are you skipping PAX this year?
No PAX. Yeah, no PAX for me.
Oh, bummer.
Do you go to PAX? Maybe I should go.
Yeah, we're up here in Seattle, so planning to go to PAX this year.
Oh,
It'll be my
awesome.
first year, so it'll be a good time.
It looks amazing. I have friends from Missouri that go to PAX, and I'm like, oh man, I live so much closer. I need to go.
You really should come up.
I'll take you up on that.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Shannon. This has been amazing, and we'll look forward to seeing you on your shows.
Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure talking to both of you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Women's Tech Radio. Remember, you can find a full transcription in the show notes at jupiterbroadcasting.com or also at heywtr.tumblr.com.
And also, any links to Shannon's shows will be in the show notes. So if you want to check her out, go ahead and take a gander there. You can also find us on iTunes. Subscribe to the show there, or if you prefer an RSS feed, it's available at jupiterbroadcasting.com under the Hey WTR show. And you can also follow us on Twitter at HeyWTR. Thanks for listening.